What if you could live your healthiest life for as long as possible? What if you knew that your longevity was completely up to you and the relationship that you have with your body? Well, today we are talking to Dr. Otto Janke, an incredible chiropractor whose mission in life is to get as many people as possible to live their best and healthiest lives for as long as possible. And he believes that your healthcare must focus on getting you to optimal functioning, which means that we must concentrate on preventative care instead of just trying to put out fires when something is wrong. It is my pleasure to share this important conversation with you where we talk about taking back your agency in your own health. And you are definitely going to want to take notes about this episode. And if you're really ready to start thriving, head on over to empowerededucator.com/thrive. This game-changing 5-week online course will give you the tools to shift your paradigm of success and create the pathway for you to live your best life, which is how we show up as our best selves. It's time to decide that you want to do more than just survive. It's time to thrive. Registration is now open, so sign up now at empowerededucator.com/thrive. Remember all the passion and vision you had when you first went into teaching? Feeling like building young minds and creating community through your work would make a lasting impact on this world? Well, those days may feel like they're behind you now because you're exhausted, stressed, and overwhelmed and frustrated, but I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be like this. In fact, the love of teaching never really went away, but it absolutely needs transformation. Welcome to the Take Notes podcast. I'm Jen Rafferty, former music teacher, mom of 2, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, and I'm here to light the way for you. In order to create a generational change for our kids, we need to shift the paradigm away from the perpetual stress and overwhelm and into a life of joy and fulfillment. This is Education 2.0, where you become the priority, shift how you live your life, and how you show up both at work and at home. So take a sip of steamy morning coffee and grab your notebook. It's time to take notes.
It is my absolute pleasure. I want to invite you to take a listen to this episode with one of my favorite people. And Otto and I have known each other. Actually, I've been thinking about this for a little over 10 years now. You've seen me through a lot. And I wanted to invite him on today to talk about something really important, and that is just overall physical health. And he approaches this in such an interesting, holistic way that I wanted you to hear it straight from his mouth. So thank you so much for being here.
Every time and anytime. You know that.
Yes, I do. And I so appreciate that. So can you just share a little bit about why chiropractic care and why is taking care of your spine really that important?
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be on here with you.
Yes.
And your hair does look fabulous.
Thank you. So does yours.
I guarantee you, I cut mine a lot more than you cut yours. I guarantee you. Why chiropractic care? So it's made out to be much, much more difficult than it should be. And it's simple, is that if the nervous system works at its best, you work at your best. And it's really that easy. And I talked to you for years about the tone of your nervous system because you knew about the tone of a guitar. And if the guitar is just off, if the low E is off by that much, all 6 strings just aren't in harmony. Therefore, they don't function well as a guitar. And so the nervous system is the same exact thing with you. If we can get you in tune, all of you in tune as much as possible, you just make beautiful music as a human being. And that's the simplest way we can put it. And it's not about what the guitar looks like. It's not about how old it is. It's not about how much it costs. It's about, can we get you in tune with you? And the nervous system is just the simplest way. And it's the coolest thing that there ever was. And we are seeing more and more progressive diseases that are coming from a nervous system that's not in tune, from just the onslaught and tidal wave of autoimmune syndromes in females. Doesn't happen as much as in males because, and let's be realistic about healthcare, is that there's a diagnostic prejudice that goes with the sex. And if we can get you in tune better, your nervous system functions better, and we don't see as many of those same diseases.
So I love that you make this analogy to guitars. That's something that we've talked about quite a lot because it's so concrete and tangible that
Sure.
if an instrument is out of tune, it's not going to play its best. And the same thing works for your nervous system for sure. And so I have kind of two things I want to go. First of all, we talk about nervous system regulation a lot in the work that I do with Empowered Educator. And I would for you to make an explicit differentiation when you're talking about the nervous system versus how I talk about it regarding regulation. You speak about this in a much different capacity. So can you talk a little bit about what you mean about taking care of your nervous system regarding the work that you do with people?
So very, very simple is that I look at your nervous system in multiple ways. First of all, I look at how your posture is. And teachers, we have seen such a change in teachers in your posture in the last, I'm practicing for 30 years. And so the posture that teachers have has changed dramatically in the last 10 to 15 years. It's changed dramatically to where we're seeing that boom, that forward head syndrome, which that will help you to age so much quicker. We're not going to use the word age because age is almost too nice. It's going to help you to decay so much quicker. And we don't want that. We want you to age gracefully for decades to come. So the first thing I do in my practice is we take digital posture pictures. I want to see how you're built. More importantly, I already know how you're built. I want you to see how you're built. And that's just massively important. Second of all is this. We do 3 types of neurological testing in my office. I see how the muscles are functioning. I see how your autonomic nervous system is functioning, then how your heart rate variability is working. That last one is we ask your nervous system, and none of this is invasive. We ask your nervous system 2 very simple questions. One is, do you have enough energy to run this wonderful machine called Jen? Do you have it? Not if you feel energized or nervous. Do you have the right energy to run you? And it's simple like this. So I have a MacBook Pro right there, which I do my editing on. I open that MacBook Pro up and the computer starts. But maybe some of the apps or programs don't start up or they don't communicate. Well, that computer is no longer functional. Some people will say it's got enough energy. It doesn't. All those systems have got to be coordinated and working with each other and talking to each other. Your immune system, your digestive system, cardiovascular, your sexual function, hormone, all that stuff has got to be communicating all the while you're having 60,000 viruses, bacteria, molds, and bugs attacking you every single day. And you don't give a cough, a sneeze, or a fever at all whatsoever while you're listening to me, while you're digesting the food you had at lunch, while you're thinking about this, while your ass is on that seat, your back's on there, you're writing with your hand, all these things at the same time. How freaking important could this possibly be? And you look at that and you're like, man, we got to keep the system massively coordinated. So we check that. And the heart rate variability also asks a great question, which is not if you're under stress, but what kind of stress you're under. And that allows us to address our care for you dramatically independently. And we can test this and progress this along the way. And that's when we look at that. And probably about 10, 15 years ago, I stopped asking people how you were feeling, mainly because the classic is, how did Joe feel 5 minutes before he had his heart attack? Joe felt great. How many people do you know who are diagnosed with some kind of disease process, let's take cancer, and they feel okay? We no longer can rely just on that. We have to look at what your body says, read what your body says, allow you to tell us what's wrong with you without having to open up your body to give you all different medications. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that you need to have 2 primary care physicians now. One is a fireman and one is an architect. Fireman has to be able to put out the diseases. The architect has to help you build to be better for the next decades.
All of that stuff is huge. And there's so many places I want to go with this. You know, the first thing that you talked about was posture. And as a musician myself, as someone who studied voice, and posture was always something I was maybe more familiar with because I studied some of that in college. But even still, when I first started working with you, especially and all along, we're constantly talking about that forward head posture. And this is something we don't notice. And this is so much more than when we're kids and our mom says, stand up straight, stand up straight. It's so much different. So what are some of the causes that keep us in this place of, so where we're not aligned anymore, that we're almost contorting ourselves?
So again, 30 years in practice, I talk about Mrs. Johansson, who was an 82-year-old woman from Sweden, who when I first started practicing, she was the only person in my practice who was built with that forward head. The only one. Now, when I go do the scoliosis checks in schools, numbers almost always 3.2 for girls, 2.8% for boys. They're going to have some kind of deviation of the spine. But it's going to be over 50 to 60% of these young boys and girls who are going to have that forward head posture. We simply cannot allow this. And again, I don't want to sound like the cruel and uncaring chiropractor on here, but I don't care if the kid's in pain or not, because by the time that happens, we're already a decade behind. And if we're a decade behind with pain, we're also a decade behind with nervous system not functioning at its best, especially in those integral years of them blooming, absolutely blooming into adolescence. So that's the first thing. Second of all is, what's causing it? It's this son of a bitch right here. This son of a bitch right here, and this stuff we're on right now.
For those people who are listening and not watching, cell phone and computer.
Cell phone and computer. You guys can follow me and look at some of my videos. One was on computer monitor height. Simplest thing, I'll be honest with you. I get paid a lot of money going to companies to do ergonomic evaluations. I see how people are sitting and standing. And I go around and say, lift up the monitor, lift up the monitor, lift up the monitor, lift up the monitor, lift up the monitor. And they say, well, we've got $25,000 to buy new furniture. Donate the money to a great cause. Lift up get a big phone book from Brooklyn, put it underneath there and lift the monitor up. And they're like, well, we want to. I said, you guys can buy all the chairs that you want. But if you're working on a laptop and the laptop is down there, doesn't matter if you lift the laptop up into a raised desk, it's still going to be too low for you. So we talk about that all the time. The other thing is that we look at how often we sit. We look at how often we spend time on the computer, how often we spend time on the handhelds. It is astounding. And we systematically do this for hours a day, and then we don't do anything to combat that. And when we don't combat that, you start to ingrain that into your nervous system.
Wow. I mean, it's when we talk about it like this, it's very confronting.
But you know what? It has to be. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. We know how to freaking change it. We know how to improve it. This ain't rocket surgery. This ain't rocket surgery. We know how to change this. And it's a systematizing, we talk about the 5 aspects of motion. And one of them, the 5th one, is posture. And no one talks about that when you're at the gym. They talk about, okay, you got to do your cardio, your weightlifting. We also have to get into balance and flexibility. But the last one is posture. If the guitar neck is just tweaked a little bit, not much. I got my Gretsch right there. I go get my Gretsch checked to see if I have proper neck alignment. And if that's not aligned, it doesn't matter what kind of strings I put on it. It doesn't matter what kind of pickup. It doesn't matter. And if it's warped just a little bit, and then my guy goes, dude, you didn't see that? It's warped. I'm like, I just kept on tuning it a lot, man. I just kept on, tightening the strings a bunch. And he's like, no, man, your neck is. And so he has to go in there with a rod, take the neck off, do the thing, and same exact thing.
Yeah, it's such a great analogy for this. And the other thing that keeps coming up for me is, again, 2 things. Seems to be a trend here. I have 2 things to say for all of your guys. The first is, first of all, having a sense of incredible appreciation and gratitude for the amount of work that your body does on a daily basis.
And here's the other thing. I didn't even get up about the whole part about being, by the way, let's put it on the table right now. Women are the better sex. It's not even close. It's fine. I mean, it's.
Keep talking. Yes. Keep talking.
You freaking grow humans. You grow humans. You never need to go to and watch a documentary, read a book, or go to a class ever to know exactly how to do that. That is the freaking nut craziest thing ever. And 99% of the babies born worldwide are perfect. The other 5% are because of drugs and or malnutrition. So you look at that and you start going, oh, one cell from this human and this cell from this are come together and like Yahtzee, we make this 4 trillion celled human being over there that's perfect. I'm astounded, overwhelmed, and not much makes me want to actually stop and cry and practice. But when I start to see these little boys and girls who they say their first words or they take their first steps, and that is just no one had to teach them any of that stuff either. And they do it awesome. I only read about 4 things. That's all I read about in my whole life. I read about 4 things. And one of them is how the incredible body works and how we can help it maintain that for as long as possible. All the shit you got going on at one time is freaking astounding.
Yeah, it's something that we profoundly take for granted.
Until the house is fully engulfed in flames. And we talk about this all the time. Okay, the house isn't fully engulfed in flames. It's only the 2nd floor is engulfed in flames. I can still live downstairs. Don't worry about that. It's like, dude, I walk by a jet. Your house, it's only the 2nd floor. Don't worry about it. We open the windows. It gets cooler in here. Don't worry about it. You're like, your 2nd floor. It's astounding. And the question I get, Jen, often is then why do we have so many diseases? It's because we screwed up the program. We all have a blueprint for our own health. Yours is a little different than mine. It's essentially the same, but yours is a little different than mine. And we have chosen to go off that blueprint. We've made choices. For instance, I want to eat these things. Yeah, but I like those things. Is it on the blueprint? But I like these. Someone asked me about desserts. I have traveled for tiramisu. I've traveled distances for tiramisu. Tiramisu and I had we had a thing going on for quite some time. When I was in Italy last time, we were there for 10 days. I had tiramisu 14 times. I'm not saying I have a problem. I'm just saying that's the facts. But the reality is when I come back here, I don't have it at home. I just don't buy it. So if you want to make the most profound changes, you start with a menu at home. That's your grocery list. That's your menu for cooking. That's how you shop and that's how you stock foods. It's not that hard. We make it so much more difficult. We have gotten away from the sheer simplicity of health. Health is the natural default mechanism of your body. It always has been. That's why when someone stops smoking, their lungs start gacking up this stuff because your body says, let's get back to the blueprint, dude. Let's get back to the blueprint. And your body has to go through that whole process of changing to get back into health. It takes a while.
It does. And I think for me, I have been on my own personal health journey for many, many years now. When we met, that was, I think, some of the very beginning of me realizing something's going, because my second floor was on fire. This was my third floor at that point. Everything was on fire. And even as I've been moving through this, it hasn't been until very recently, within the last few weeks, I have realized that I didn't actually love my body enough to make it a priority. And until I figured that piece out, it didn't matter what I did, because at the end of the day, I was fine just having the first floor because that's all I thought I needed because of a relationship I developed with myself long ago, and all the mindset stuff, which is what we kind of get into and dabble in the work that I do. But that is a huge piece of it too, is understanding the worthiness of having a healthy body.
It's fundamental. So the term we use is the selfishness of health. And the selfishness of health is just that. I have to make myself a priority. And so once again, I'll go into the differences in the sexes that I've seen in 30 years, is that moms, and I call it the doom loop that moms get into. The doom loop is that a mom comes into my practice, typically in her 30s or 40s, who has been in a certain health status for probably years, if not decades, and she's no longer able to do mom stuff, not to the level that she would like to. Since she's not able to do that, she starts to spiral down into, I can't, I'm not worthy, I can't. And we see not only the physicality of it, but the mental, emotional aspects also. So we have to come back to that and say, let's be honest about this. There's only one person who's truly concerned about your health. Jen, I hope you and I are friends. I hope we are co-mates on your healthy decades. But the reality is, I'm never going to be as entrusted into your health as you are. It's just the reality of it. So you have to then make the best choices for yourself along the way. And you have to say to yourself, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this because I need to have this beautiful machine that I call myself working at optimum levels for as long as possible. And we have to do that. And there's many, many people who don't. And men do it a different way. Dads do it a different way. And they say, I'm going to dedicate my time to working so I can provide for my family at the levels that I think is necessary, while they then make a secondary, not even a secondary, but not the second burner on the stove, but that tray underneath where we put the trays underneath?
I put my pans in, yeah.
So that's where men put their health. And they say, I will take care of this when I retire. You're already 30, 40 years behind. You will never make that time up. And the reality is that the more and more I read about this is that 30 minutes a day, it takes 30 minutes a day to actually help you to optimize your next 60, 70 years.
So I want to talk about what to do in those 30 minutes, but I do want to say here, which is something you touched on, which is so aligned with the work that I do. The fundamental principle of Empowered Educator is the most generous thing you can do for other people is take care of yourself.
By far.
And that is a radical idea for many people, but I think specifically educators who go into the service industry and are, immersed in this tradition of martyrdom and revered selflessness
Yes.
on top of the social pressures of being a mom or a dad for some people as well. So this idea of saying, put yourself first, I've seen people struggle with this inner conflict about this before. Some of them come around and some of them don't. That's cool, live and love, but hopefully you'll come around soon. But that's exactly what you're talking about, is that you are the only one that's going to be invested in your health and your well-being. And by health, I mean holistic health more than anybody else. And if you're not going to do it, that's it. There is no one else.
There isn't anybody else. Add on top of that, maybe a religious factor, being a lifelong Catholic. We have the whole guilt that goes along with that. Add all that shit on top of the other shit you got. You got a lot of shit. That's a big pile. So people ask me on a regular basis, why do I exercise the way I do? I'm 59 and 1/2. I'm looking forward to my birthday in November. Everybody there invited my birthday party November 19th in Cortland, New York.
Thank you. I'll be there.
I'm going to be.
All these people listening.
I hope so. I'm going to be 60. I'm looking forward to 60. My wife turns 60 next year. She refuses to have any more birthdays. I see the dichotomy in vision right there. But the reality is this. Why do I exercise the way I do? Why do I eat the way I do? Why do I do what I do? For two very, very important reasons. One is because I don't want to be a physical burden, a health burden upon my wife. So I do what I do now, so I'm not that burden. Second of all is, if my wife ever has by the way, this makes me out to be a lot nicer guy than I actually.
No lies. You're actually a very nice guy. Stop it.
Yes, if she ever has a health concern, I'm healthy enough to care for her. And so I do that because of those two massive reasons. Also, for all of our educators out there who work your ass off for 40 years, 4 decades, and you say to yourself, I'm going to do this so I can enjoy my golden years. We need to set up you now for retirement. You have set up, for instance, in your TIACREF or whatever it is, in your retirement programs, you set this up on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, yearly basis to take these monies from here to make sure they're there. You have to make sure you're there also. You have to make sure you're there also. And you do that. You do it by depositing small amounts of money every week, month, or year. You do the same thing with your health. Small deposits every day leads to you being able to rock retirement. You can do one of two things, either rock retirement or be the average American who lives 5 to 7 years into retirement. And most of those years are highly medicated, going to doctor's offices, making sure you're filling prescriptions. It's your choice. I mean, it's really simple.
And it's interesting too, going back to gratitude, there's such a different way to approach some of these new choices you can make, because if you are approaching it the same way as, I'm putting this money away towards retirement, it's something that I'm super grateful for, that I'm able to set this money aside for my future, instead of, oh, I have to eat this, or, oh, I have to go to the gym, oh, I have to go to the chiropractor. I get to, because I'm my first priority. And I'm so grateful that I made this choice that will allow for longevity in retirement or whatever. And that energetic shift and emotional shift is huge.
It's a massive change. I don't exercise always because I think I'm going to be a male model. That time was fleeting, gone a long time ago. Here's the reality. If I don't exercise on a regular basis, if I don't follow my programs, if I don't follow my blueprint, first of all, mentally, emotionally, I'm not the same person. I'm not a happy-go-lucky person. I don't think as well. I don't think as progressively as fast or well in the future. I don't move as well. I don't do all these things at the level I want to. I can't enjoy playing my guitars as much as I want to, or enjoying the music I have. I don't get to enjoy that because I haven't kept myself at a certain level. I do it because I get to enjoy life more. And there's 3 things the dear Lord put you on life to do. That's to live, laugh, and love. Let's just do those 3 things at the best we can.
Yeah. And, for me, and I'll share something else about my journey with this is, again, up until recently, when I would come to see you, I would be in pain. And it would be because something's on fire and it needs to be put out. And then I would stick with it for a little while. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. Totally fine. It's fine. And there would be this anger and resentment that I would have that, like my back went out again. I used to feel such a sense of betrayal about my body. And really, I did. And then, it gets better because there was this negative feedback loop, because not only was I angry at my body for betraying me, but then I was angry at myself for getting to the point where it wanted to betray me. And I was just angry about it. So even my intentions of going to get the help that I needed was full of this negative charged emotion. But now, really, it's been tremendous that I go with a sense of self-love and gratitude that, again, I'm going to get the help that I need and the support that I need because I love myself enough to prioritize it and make it my number one priority.
So I have to tell you that you would come in and talk about your back as if it was a third person in another room. And you would be like, my freaking back was this. It's like, it's attached to you. It's right there. You do, and you're like, yeah, my back wasn't. It's like, it's right there.
Yes. Oh, I know. Because if it wasn't a part of me, then I could be responsible for it. Right? I mean, that's really what it was. It was, oh, my back betrayed me again. It's like, no, Jen, get with it.
Curse you, curse you.
Yes. And, that really, it didn't sustain. It was ridiculous looking back at it,
Not beneficial in any means.
No, I didn't prioritize myself enough to want it to be a part of me. I was so angry. There was just this beautiful moment again recently that changed everything. And it really does start with having these really important conversations and understanding again that you are your first priority.
You should be. It's not that you're going to love anyone else less. It's that you're allowed to love yourself more. And
yes.
And people think it's a zero-sum game where if I love myself more, undoubtedly I'm taking love away from someone else. And it's just, you're allowed to frickin' be awesome. In my book, on page 72, it says, it is knowing that it is acceptable to be magnificent in at least one thing in life. And we downplay how great we can be. We downplay our own health, how smart we are, how beautiful we are. We all have this little bit of genius in us, and we should be allowed to let that just shine. We downplay it because, once again, someone else, it's like, geez Louise, people. Let's just, LeBron James is able to shoot a freaking basketball really well. I mean, is he going to cure cancer with that? Is he going to help cease frustrations? No, he shoots a freaking basketball well. He does it very, very well. He does it. No one ever asked him, by the way, your SAT scores were pretty low there, LeBron. Maybe you should. No, man, we all have our level of genius. We should allow that to shine.
100%. So going back to what you said before, in those 30 minutes a day that you described, what can people do in those 30 minutes that can move the needle forward and make a difference?
The simplest thing you should do, and by the way, I do it, one of my longevity lives, we talk about motion, is that the vast majority, and they looked at, the number was today that 49% of women have not done any exertive exercise over the last year. So let's say 50% of women haven't done vigorous exercise over the last year. This is a big problem because hello, tidal wave, it's coming. The same thing with kids in schools. I get scared that we have taught kids to exercise 2 or 3 times a week. And it's difficult to teach an adult to do the same thing when it's been ingrained to you for 12 years, not to do that. But when we get into moving, so there's 5 aspects we talk about. 1 is cardio, 2 is power, 3 is flexibility, balance, and then posture. Posture is the simplest one of them. Cardio, the number they look at is 30 minutes a day of some kind of motion. But if you do exercise, weightlifting of some kind, it can be body weightlifting, it can be soup cans in a plastic grocery bag, it can be bands, doesn't matter what it is, your body doesn't know the difference. You add all those in and you do it consistently hard for 30 minutes along with the balance. If you do balance stuff, some of the balance stuff that I see people do, it's hard. And then you're breaking a sweat doing the stuff. Great. The magic number is 30. You can do more. Awesome. More intense. Awesome. Not hard to do. You can find programs on YouTube left and right that can easily do it.
Yeah, everything's so available. It's so accessible.
So accessible. And the vast majority of it, the magic price is usually at no charge, or fundamentals of starting is usually at little fee. Then you can go on. I mean, I've had personal trainers a numbers of times. They're more expensive. Once again, people have insight into the way I move, stand, and do things. It's just like, I did not know that.
Yeah. Even I've been going to the gym now twice a week, and I actually asked a trainer to join me. And she told me some good tips and things like that. But just having someone there to be like, yeah, Jen, yes, 5 more minutes. Yes. Just that was worth the money every once in a while. And investing in yourself with time, with intention, with money, the return on those investments are far greater than anything else you could possibly do. And changing that mindset, I think, is the most important thing to actually making this transformational change you're talking about.
The tragic numbers are that 70% of people who start, for instance, January 1st, stop exercising by March 1st. Well, what changed? Did the location of the gym change? No. Well, the weather's probably even better than it was in January. What's changed? It was your mindset that changed. From January 1st to March 1st, your mindset changed. And so the same thing as you're going to get your master's in some kind of program, and you ask someone how long is it going to take, and they'll tell you it's going to take 2 to 3 years. Oh, okay, get a master's in you. Get a master's in you from now on, your master's in your physical health. Do that. The small amount of time, energy, and money you put into it is quadrupled. It's 10x by the time, it's not even close.
Yeah, it's true. Intentions are great and inspiration is great, but integration is so much more important. And once the magic of inspiration fades, you need something that's going to sustain you and keep you going when you lose that initial love affair that you had with this idea. And that's really what's going to keep you going. I love that analogy again about getting a master's degree. You just know this is how long it's going to take. And you say, okay, you just sign up and you do the work. And at the end of it, there you go.
Even though it sucks and you're halfway into it, you're going like, this is just terrible. I don't know what I'm even doing here. So the 3 words we use here is PDC: plan, discipline, and consistency. You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. I block out time on my phone to go to the gym. That's a non-negotiable time. The discipline is taking that and putting that into a physical action. And the consistency is making sure I do that. I can do that. I do that. And I follow through. Once you start doing the plan, the discipline, the consistencies, it becomes part of you. It's the same thing. You didn't learn how to play the guitar in one day. And the first times you played it, same as everybody else, same as I did, it was like, I did not know my hands were even attached to my body. And it's the most uncoordinated thing. And then when you start doing it, it's magical. Same thing happens.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So you have this amazing program called Empire Longevity. And I'd love for you to talk about it just a little bit, because I think the work that you're doing inside of that container is so interesting and focused really on this idea of holistic health, even greater than some of the other folks who are doing similar work as you. This is something that's special, your special sauce.
Absolutely. And so Empire Longevity, it started really after my mom died. Last couple months of my mom's life, she suffered with a disease called idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. Idiopathic, we don't know why. Pulmonary lung fibrosis, scar tissue. The inside of her lungs were turned into a scar tissue. And it's a typically 2-year process in which you watch someone slowly suffocate. And it sucks 85 different ways. My mom was someone who taught me independence, who taught me that if everybody wants to go to the movies, you don't want to go, then you don't go. And if you want to go to the movies, no one else wants to go, then you go. Which has led me to being a chiropractor, led me in my many, many things. I watched her and she asked me, she walked from our kitchen to her chair, which was 10 steps. She had to stop 3 times on her way there because she had run out of breath 3 times. And by the time she got to her chair, she was gasping for breath. Something you and I go up, we come back, we don't even think about it. And she was gasping for breath. And while she's there, she says to me 6 words. And they are tattooed on my heart and just inscribed in my skull. And that is, without your health, you have nothing. Without your health, you have nothing. And I couldn't realize what those words meant to me because I'm watching my mom slowly die. She was gone within a couple months after that. That's 2005. In 2013, I wrote my book, but then I decided I needed to step up my game and my participation in the lives of people I know and other people around the world. And so we started Empire Longevity. And the focus is that if we look at the events of the last couple of years, the statistics are that 93% of the people who have either died with or of COVID are over the age of 54. 93% of the people. And you start looking and you go like, what did they do wrong? This whole generation of people, what did they do wrong? And the answer is they didn't do anything wrong. Is our healthcare system has no plan for you past the age of, it's really probably about 35, 40 now. They really have no plan for you. And so since they don't have a plan, we need to come up with a plan. And so we need to look at your mental emotional. We talk about the mental emotional aspect of you. We talk about the emotion. We talk about the rocket fuel. We don't talk about diets, we talk about rocket fuel. And we talk about the optimized nervous system. This is all part of the pyramid of health we talk about. But we need to integrate the longevity of music, which you came in and spoke on. We need to talk about the longevity of housing. of finances, of your relationships, of pets, because all these things are all tied together, and they're all tied together. This little beacon inside, this little light, that's you. That's you. And it's not about you getting a better core. It's not about you learning how to cook better. It's not about you being able to, it's about all of this. We do this all because we want you to enjoy not your next decades, but your next best decades. So we start laying a groundwork of how healthy you can be. We show you the fundamental aspects of that, and then start bringing in the teachers, the leaders who then promote you, push you, and kick you in the ass along the way. So that, here's the reality. I want you to be the coolest grandmother there ever was on earth. Not just the coolest mom, but the coolest grandmother ever was. And to do that, we have to have you be as healthy as possible for as long as possible. And there's two grandparents in your future. The one that at your child's wedding, who's in the back, who is on that chair with the oxygen up to their nose and who can barely clap their hands while your child is having their first dance. Or you can be the grandmother who's up there dancing, going, woo, that's my kid, that's my kid. You have an opportunity to be one of those. I can tell you what our healthcare system is pushing you towards. It's not the one you want. And so since they're not able to do that, we have to stand up and start showing you how to do that.
So briefly, and this is going to be in the program notes too. So I would love for you to just give the listeners a way to know more about you and your work. So if they want to find you, how do they do that?
First of all, my name's Otto, O-T-T-O. Please don't screw that up. If you screw that up, we've got much, much bigger problems than anything about your podcast. So it's Otto at empirelongevity.com. Always feel free to email me. Always feel free. I guarantee you I'll respond back within 24 hours. Second of all is this, it's empirelongevity.com. It's one word. If you don't put it one word and just try to find it separately, I don't know where you'll end up. empirelongevity.com. So we have a public facing page, which is, you'll see a lot of our stuff there. But we also have a membership page, and you'll see up on top there, it says become a member. That's $19 a month, whatever it is. I'm not selling that today. I'm just telling you, let you know what it is. And in that, we have a lot more of our interviews, much more of our deeper information. We send out weekly email, video, written paper from me every week. And it's because, once again, we need to start pushing that train over there just a little bit, because we know the track you're on. And 54%, over the age of 54, 93% of people, either with or because of COVID, is just massively unacceptable. I mean, I would say some other words along with that, but I want to keep it clean for you. But it's just starkly dangerous that we follow the same path. And coming up in September, we have our next symposium, and we get together for a day and we bring those leaders in. One of them we have talking about, it'll be the longevity of food and growing your vegetables next. And you look at that and go like, what are people doing? You go like, well, here we go. It's neat stuff. And I love this because I get to meet those people also. And I sit down with them, and I talk with them just like Jen's doing here. And I get to talk with them, and I get to ask them the questions. And at the end of the time, I'm going like, son of a bitch, I did not know that. It's just the neatest stuff.
That's awesome. One of the things that I really admire about you is that your tail wags unabashedly all the time. You are just so excited about your mission in this lifetime. And that is something that I've always admired about you. And it is so clear that your decisions about your own personal decisions, your professional decisions, they are also aligned to that. And it's super cool to have seen the evolution of Empire Longevity as I've known you. And I'm really excited to see where it goes and all of the people that it helps, and really invite them to wake up to their own well-being. And it's a gift that you're giving, just a gift for me to watch.
Thank you.
Yes. So our last question that I ask everybody is...
Last questions, everybody.
Last question.
Ask questions.
In your experience and what you've seen and what you've observed, and knowing that this particular podcast is really geared towards educators and school leaders, what is your dream for the future of education?
The future of education is a system in which we have to have a basis of where kids can learn from, and then allow them to take those talents that they have and allow those talents to be manifested at the best they can. Once again, LeBron James, no one ever asked LeBron James about his physics scores. And some kids are put into programs in which their brains don't work that way. I look at, after my parents passed, I looked at some of my report cards from elementary school, and all of them said, Otto has a problem paying attention in class, and he talks with his neighbors a lot. It's like, wow. I had no idea I had ADHD when I was 5 or 6 years old, or whatever it was. And that was happening all the time. And for me, it was because, honestly, I wasn't pushed in school. I wasn't allowed to be pushed in school. I was never I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm not the cat with the sharpest claws by any means. I'm a grinder when it comes to education, which means you're going to get higher scores on me. I'll get there, but I'm not going to be the first day. Is that some kids are going to need to learn differently and allow their talents to be expressed as much as possible. And the toughest part in education is that means we have to open up the doors as to how we're going to be able to, where we're going to allow kids to go with their own education. I know that is just a manifestation that is so, so broad, but I'm a guy who's had 9 years of postgraduate education, and I don't think college is right for everybody. And so.
Yeah. And this question, I think, is also so interesting for me in my perspective. My definition of an educator in my world is really anyone who works with kids in any capacity. And
absolutely,
getting your perspective on that was just great. So thank you for everything. This has been tremendous.
This is the Jen Show, starring Jen.
It's my favorite channel.
Love this one.
It's always a joy. And I'm grateful for your time and your talents. And thank you for sharing them with me and everyone else today. As
we say here, always and always.
Always. Is there more?
No.
Oh.
Always.
Always and always. Sounds like Phil Collins. Always and always.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know I have no Phil Collins music?
You know what it is? It's my kids watch cards. That's what it is.
Once again, having had no kids.
There it is. Yeah, Phil Collins soundtrack has been played frequently in my house over the years. Anyway, I digress. Thanks again. And I'm hoping to have you back another time to even go further and do some more deep dives. In the meantime, thank you for listening and catch you next time.
Thank you much on the Jen Show.
Incredible, right? Together, we can revolutionize the face of education. It's all possible, and it's all here for you right now. Let's keep the conversation going at Empowered Educator Faculty Room on Facebook.